Okay, welcome everyone to this Odoo talk. We're going to start with a little game. I want you to imagine that you are a functional consultant or a project manager, and you have a client working in the, let's say, alarm sector industry. One day, this client is calling you and is actually asking you to set up reminders in Odoo in order to remind his clients that they have to do the maintenance of their security systems. So, as a functional consultant, what you could basically do is just set reminders, for example, on the contact form or on the opportunity of your client. You could all use the activities and set up reminders. But you could go actually further than that. You could actually look up at what is the competition doing? What are the competitors in that same sector doing? And you realize that the competitors, they are actually issuing maintenance contracts to the customer, whether or not they do the maintenance. So you think about it, and then you tell yourself, okay, I need to tell this to my client because it will be a game changer for him. So you propose that to your client, and he accepts it. Why does he accept it? Because it makes him win time. He does not have to set up reminders anymore. And he gets money, whether or not the people are taking the responsibility to call him for their maintenance. And this is what I'd like actually to talk to you about today, is how can you go from a classic Odoo implementation to a real digital revolution for your clients. We have a pad, of course, as for any talk, so I invite you to scan it or to write down the link over there, ask your questions, and we'll answer it at the end. I'll let you 5-10 seconds to do it. Okay. Well, let's start. So how to go further in our digital revolution? Well, to start first, I'd like to explain you where do we come from at Odoo. I started in 2020 working at Odoo. In 2020. At that moment, my mission when I arrived, it was quite clear. I was a functional consultant. So my role was basically to explain to Odoo how Odoo was working, and my customer needed to explain how it was working. For example, during a business analysis that I would conduct, I would have asked the question, well, do you have price lists? My customer would have answered yes or no, and I would have activated the price list configuration. But then, as you may know, at Odoo, things evolve quite fast. And this is why, in 2022, our job operated, I would say, a first switch. We switched from functional consultant to business analyst. And here, my job was not anymore to understand how, or not only anymore to understand how, but it was also to understand what my client was doing. So what is really your core business? How do you make money? And here, my question, if I would have made, I would say, the same business analysis, my question about price lists would have been slightly different. I would have said, do you apply different prices depending on certain conditions? Here, my question is more open. So I'm also able, with that kind of question, to receive more information to my client and to really understand what is really my client doing with the price list. But then, as you see, the arrow is not finished. And we are today in 2024. I am still there, but my job took another dimension. We are now considered as digital advisor. Why? Because we realize that as project managers, we do not want only to help your clients. We really want to advise them on how to be more efficient. So we want to benefit from our experience with previous clients, from our own experience, to be able to advise our clients. That's just what I did with my client in the alarm security system. I advised him on how to be more efficient. Let's take up again my question about the price list. I would have maybe asked, I've read on Google or I went on ChatGPT and I know that you're in a competitive environment. How does that affect your pricing? Here, I really understand why my client is applying that pricing strategy. Why? Because actually he might face different challenges. And this is our role as digital advisor. As digital advisor, we really want to understand our clients' key challenges to advise them better in their digitalization strategy. So I'm repeating myself, but we do not want to help them only, we want to advise them. Why do we want to do so? Because we want to become long-term strategic partner. It means that we don't want to do an implementation and then, okay, bye-bye, we move to the next client. No, we want really to become a partner with a client so that in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, when my client wants to implement, let's say maybe a new product, or he has a super marketing idea, he's going to think about me. He's going to think about his Odoo consultant that really helped him digitalize his business a few years ago. So this really, I would say, long-term partnership is super important for us. So that is what a digital advisor is. But how to actually be a digital advisor? How to do that in an implementation? Well, it's a job in 2 steps. First step, you have, as I said, to identify your client's key challenges. And to do so, we developed a tool internally, and here I give the credits to my manager, Céline, who developed that tool with a colleague. We developed the 3 dimensions tool. So as you see, this 3-dimensional tool is divided in 3 circles. We have the macro, the meso, and the micro. Okay, but what do we do with that tool? Well, you heard maybe about the kickoff previously. Well, it's a slide that we are going to show to your clients during the kickoff. And we are going to ask our clients, okay, when you see all those words, what are the words that ring the most a bell to you in terms of challenges? Where do you think that for your company, for your industry, what are your challenges? The 3 dimensions, I don't know, maybe it rings a bell to you, but the macro is the pestle analysis. Then we have the meso with the 5 Porter forces. These are economical models that we use for this. And then we have the micro, which is really the internal challenges that we have. But I know that an example here is really theoretical, so an example is worth 1,000 words. Let's do it. So my dad, and this is a true story, my dad, he has a bookshop in the center of Brussels. And I came back a month ago at home, and I did the exercise with him. I showed him this 3-dimensions tool. And I asked him, okay, when you see that tool, can you tell me maybe what challenges do you face as a bookstore in 2024 in Belgium? The first thing that he told me is first the technological. Why? Because he told me that at the moment, the rise of sale of e-books, digital books, is a huge challenge for him. He needs to compete with that because he sells physical books, so that's a big challenge. Another challenge for him was the competitors. I think you all know Amazon. Well, it's not a joke, but my dad does not like Amazon. Why? Well, because it's an online retailer and people can get access to books super fast, super easily. For a physical bookstore, it's also a challenge. Also, another challenge that they pointed to me is customers. Why? Because he's actually trying every day to attract a new generation of customer that is really present on social networks. So he's really asking himself, okay, how can I make that generation come into my bookshop? And the final challenge that we talked about is the processes. Of course, as a bookshop, and Fabien showed that in his keynote this morning with, you remember, the bookshop in India, he needed to have a tool to manage well his inventory. Inventory in a bookshop is super important. I need to know what are my bestsellers. I need to know which book don't I have to order anymore because they are not selling themselves well. So we discussed those four challenges, and I was quite happy actually that the tool worked so well for him. And so I asked myself, okay, but once I have those challenges, what do I do with it? Well, the second step of being a digital advisor is to basically identify the digital opportunities that you could take off those challenges. So let's take back our challenges and let's see how Odoo could help actually tackle those challenges. First challenge, as you remember, was the digital books. Well, what could my dad do? Of course, is enlarge his product range and communicate on social networks about it. So he could use our email marketing, he could use our social marketing to make the marketing campaign for that new product that he's going to launch. Then, well, remember the competitors with their big website? My dad could also actually use Odoo to set up a website and have an easy e-commerce with, for example, he could provide a local delivery or a store pickup, and everything of that could be done into Odoo. Then we ask ourselves the question, okay, how could we tackle the issue of the new generation of customer? And here we thought about why not organizing events in the bookshop. For example, have a book signature of the favorite author of the young generation. Like that, or this new generation would actually come physically into the bookshop. And of course, here, super important to communicate on social media, such as Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. Then, well, he needs, of course, to stay up to date also with his inventory. Cool, Odoo has a great inventory application. We can set up, for example, reordering rules for the bestseller, or we are also able to have a clear reporting of what are our bestsellers. So as you see, from the challenges, from the things that were hard for him, I'm able, thanks to Odoo, to transform that into opportunities. Okay, but what do we do first? What if my dad doesn't have the money to buy a 300-hour packs? He only has 25 hours of implementation. What do we do first? Well, we have this matrix that can help us actually decide what we do first. As you see, this matrix is divided into 4 quadrants based on 2 axes. So the vertical axis is the added value of that change. Will that change bring a big added value to my dad's bookshop? The horizontal axis is the ease of transformation. So it means that is that transformation easy to do? Well, after discussing with my dad, here is what we decided. First, we decided to start with what we call the quick wins. So the quick wins is everything that is easy to transform and also that has a big added value. It's something that you can do quite fast and that you know that for your client, it will help him in his daily processes. So we decided here to actually organize an event, organize a book signature with a good author that we know that the young generation likes, and we decided to communicate on the social media. Here we consider that it's something quite simple to set up into Odoo. It could go quite fast. It does not require a lot of Odoo configuration, so we start with a quick win. Then we decided to focus on our game changers. So our game changers are actually the things that we know it's going to take us more time to implement because there is maybe more configuration, but it has a big added value. For example, having an easy website with an e-commerce, I know that for my dad, it will really be more convenient for him, and especially his customers will like it a lot because it will be super easy for them to know or to order their favorite books. Another game changer that we talked about is the processes. So here, we want to implement an easy inventory management that will be convenient for him and his employees. But it's true that it requires some configuration. We need to count the inventory, we need to set up our reordering rules, for example. So it takes more time, and this is why we do it second. Then we said that we enlarge the product range, so the challenge of the ebooks and so on. We put that in our fine-tuning case. Why we put it there? Because it's not something that my dad is offering yet. He does not have he does not have ebooks yet. So we consider it something that is nice to have, but it's not a must-have at the moment. He does not require this to be able to continue working. And like that, I'm actually ordering the needs of the bookshop. Of course, the last quadrant is everything that is not easy to implement and that has no added value. Don't do it. So, of course, the fact of deciding with what configuration or what change do we start is a discussion that you need to have with your clients during the kickoff, for example, because each project is different, each budget is different. Maybe you might only have the time to focus on the quick wins and not on the game changers, or maybe on the contrary, you say, okay, we are going to put all our energy on the game changers, and the quick wins, you will do it yourself because you have a good knowledge enough. So that is also possible. Okay, so this switch, actually, we did it this year at Odoo, and it has had an impact on several aspects of our job. As I said, it can have an impact on your phasing, on your budget. You might decide to go only for the quick wins, you might decide to go for the game changers, or you might decide to go for both. This will have an impact on the budget and your phasing. It can also have an impact on the solution you propose, or it can also have an impact on the customer processes. I don't know if you remember about my alarm security system client. I proposed him a new way of working, he accepted it, but he completely transformed the way he was working. And this is okay. And it has also an impact on the relationship that you create with your clients. If you're able to really create that long-term relationship where your client will trust you and where your client will really be your partner in that digitalization strategy, well, of course, it is also good for the upsells. It means that your salespeople also might benefit from that by selling more packs. We don't do it only for money, of course. Huh? So, how did the change happen internally? Well, as I said, we did that change of moving from business analyst to digital advisor. We did it this year in 2024. It has not been an easy change, and it's still ongoing. Every day, we are pushing more to be better at that role. It's not a new role, and it's not a new service. It's just an additional hat that we will add to our project management role, okay? It's also not for all projects. You might have businesses that are not mature enough to be advised. Or you might have just some clients that are not ready to be challenged also on their processes or on their efficiency. So not all projects will accept it. We might also think that it's easier for experienced consultants than for new consultants or new digital advisor. It's not the case. Why? Because we think that being an advisor does not only rely on your Odoo experience, but it also relies on your own experience. If you listen to the radio, if you read the newspapers, or even if you use ChatGPT, you can already collect a lot of information about a sector, about an industry, or about a company that can help you advise your client in a second time. Once again, my alarm security system, I went on the website of other competitors, I looked at how they were doing, and then I advised my client. And of course, it's important to train, if you decide to do that with your consultants, it's also important to train the salespeople, because we want this process to start as from the sales process. Why? Because at least the customer knows in which approach we are, and he will be more ready to be challenged in the longer term. And as I said, it's still an ongoing change. It was not easy to implement, but we can say that today it's working quite well with the majority of our clients. So if I can finish here by a small quote of Fabien's favorite person, is to be able to focus on long-term success, so on our clients' long-term success, we need to make short-term adjustment. And the digital advisor revolution is an adjustment that we did this year. I thank you very much for your attention, and I invite you to ask all your questions on the pads. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Héloïse. We will be more than glad to know the names of your dad's bookstore. Let's jump to some questions. Actually, about the internal tool you just showed us.
Yes.
How did you exactly develop it? Did you find out some existing models that you take as a starting point, or?
So maybe I can show the. Are you talking about the Oh my.
Indeed.
So I guess you're talking about the 3 dimensions tool. So as I said, this tool, we developed it internally, but it's true that we used economical models to build it. The macro, here, what you say in the macro layer are all from the PESTEL model, so political, economical, sociological, and so on. Then we have the meso that we took from the 5 forces of Porter. And then we used the micro, I would say, is more about the internal processes. So we used, I would say, economical models to build this tool. I don't know if it answers the questions, but...
Okay. What would be your best argument on challenging a client to go all digital?
Well, it's more, for me, I mean, personally, I think it's more efficient. A few weeks ago, I was still at the client's, and when I entered his office, I saw so much paper, so much admin, and I was like, oh my God, you should use Odoo fully, because it will help you save a lot of time, save a lot of energy. So that would be my advice, is of course to win some time, win some energy, and financially maybe more interesting.
Interesting. Are clients always okay with you taking more a consulting role?
No, that's a good question, and actually no, sometimes clients are not ready to be challenged. Why? Because maybe their business is not mature enough, or maybe they've been in business for 20, 30 years, and they are persuaded that their way of doing is the best, and that is okay. I mean, we won't fight forever with our clients. We just propose our approach, we try to push it as much as possible, but I can say that most of the clients, they are open also to receive some advice from us.
How do you reinforce the shift to digital advisorship for business analysts as it is?
As it is? Or maybe
Well, let's jump to another one. It's concerning also the 3 dimensions you just said. How do you sell digital consulting at a higher price versus a standard functionality?
No, so it's not a new service. So we sell it at the same price. We consider that it's a part of our job to advise our clients. So it's just a normal consulting price. There is no difference, I would say.
Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much, Héloïse.
Thank you.